Intersecting lines meet at a point. Like these two lines are intersecting at a point. Parallel lines never intersect. They look like this, or they never intersect. This symbol with two vertical bars is used to indicate parallel. In this example, we could say P is parallel to Q. So we could call this line P and this line Q. They are parallel, or P is parallel to Q. Perpendicular lines intersect at right angles. So here we have two perpendicular lines. They intersect at a 90-degree angle. We use the upside down T to represent P is perpendicular to Q. When two lines intersect, angles opposite one another are called vertical angles. So if they're opposite each other, this angle and this angle are vertical angles, or this angle and this angle are vertical angles because they are opposite each other. When two lines intersect, angles that share a common side are called adjacent angles. So in that example, we could say that, so in this example, we could say this angle and this angle are adjacent angles because they share a common side. Adjacent angles form a straight angle and are considered supplements of each other. Notice that this is a straight line, so these two together form supplementary angles because they form a straight line when we put them together. Their sum is 180 degrees. Let's use this picture to answer the questions. Part A, we want to list pairs of vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite each other. So, for example, angle A and 109 degrees opposite of each other. Or we could say angle B and the angle opposite B is angle C. They are vertical angles because they are opposite each other. Adjacent angles share a side. So we could say angle A and angle B are adjacent to each other because they share this side. We could also say angle B and the 109-degree angle. Angle B and the 109-degree angle are adjacent because they share this side. We could also say the 109-degree angle and angle C. They share this side. And finally, angle C and angle A are also adjacent because they share this side. In part C, we want to find the measure of angle A. Notice that A is opposite the 109-degree angle, and opposite angles have the same measure. So angle A is 109 degrees. Angle B we don't know, but we know it's adjacent to the 109-degree angle. That means it forms a straight angle, which is 180 degrees total. So we can take 180 and subtract the 109 to find angle B is 71 degrees. And if angle B is 71 degrees, then its opposite, C, must also be 71 degrees. A line that intersects two or more lines at different points is called a transversal. So if we have two parallel lines, we could create a transversal that cuts through those two. This blue line is a transversal. Notice it creates 8 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles. If parallel lines are cut by a transversal, we get 2 special groups of angles. We get corresponding angles, which are located on the same side of the transversal, and in corresponding positions relative to the two lines. These angles have the same measure. So let's assume that these two red lines are indeed parallel. They've been cut by a transversal. Corresponding angles. One example would be this angle and this angle. Notice that they are located on the same side of the transversal. They're both to the right of the blue line, and they're in corresponding positions relative to the two lines. Notice they're both above the parallel lines, but on the same side of the transversal. Those are corresponding angles. And that's just one pair. There are other corresponding angles as well. Alternate interior angles are on opposite sides of the transversal and inside the two lines. These angles have the same measure as well. So an example of alternate interior, we could use this angle and this angle. Those two angles are alternate interior. They're inside the two parallel lines, but they're on different sides of the transversal. Alternate interior. They have the same measure. Let's use the given graph to answer the following questions. Notice that M and N are parallel. We do need that information in order to answer some of these questions. We're also told that angle W, is a 45-degree angle. So W, let's label that as 45 degrees. First, let's list all pairs of corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding angles are located on the same side of the transversal and in corresponding positions relative to the two lines. So if we focus on W, angle W, and angle Y, these are corresponding angles. They're on the same side of the transversal and in corresponding positions. If we focus on angle A and angle C are corresponding angles. They're on the same side of the transversal. They're both on the right side of the transversal, and they're both above their corresponding parallel line. If we wanted to look at B, angle B and angle Z are corresponding. They're both on the left side of the transversal, and they're both on the bottom of their corresponding parallel lines. Angle X and D. These are also corresponding angles. In part B, we want to list all pairs of alternate interior angles. Alternate interior. So these need to be inside the parallel lines and opposite sides of the transversal. So B and C. Angle B and angle C. They are alternate interior. They're on alternate sides of the transversal, but interior, between the two parallel lines. We could also use X and Y. X and Y are alternate interior. They're on different sides or alternate sides of the transversal, but they're also interior angles. They're inside or between the two parallel lines. Using all of this information, let's find the measure of each of these angles. Angle A. Since we know that W is 45 degrees, we're given that information. We can find angle A by recognizing that this is a straight line or a straight angle. Straight angles or straight lines have a measure of 180 degrees. So we can take 180 degrees and subtract the 45. to give us 135 degrees. A must be 135 degrees. Again, the straight line must add up to 180. So 45 plus 135 will give us 180. Angle B, we can find, since we know angle A. Angle B is opposite angle A, and opposite angles have the same measure. So this must be 135 degrees. Angle X, we can find a couple different ways. We could use the fact that we have a straight angle, or we can just use the fact that it's opposite W, which is 45 degrees. So X must also be 45 degrees because it's opposite W. Y, we can find using the fact that it's alternate interior. Alternate interior angles have the same measure, so 45 degrees. C, we can use a couple different ways we can find it. We know it's alternate interior with B, so we know it's 135 degrees. We could also use the fact that it's a straight line here. Line N is a straight line or a straight angle which measures 180 degrees. So these two numbers should add up to 180. Next, to find D, we can use the fact that we have opposite angles. D is going to be the same as Y, which is 45 degrees. And finally, Z, we can find a couple different ways. The easiest way is using the fact that it's opposite C, which is 135 degrees.